Hey folks, today's episode is brought to you by MAGA Shop. Want to support MAGAPod? Go to MAGA Shop, our online shop that is coming later this week. You can buy MAGAPod t-shirts, hats, and coffee mugs. Go to MAGAPod.com and you'll see the link for MAGA Shop. Now, let's start the show.
Our country has tremendous potential, but we don't use it. And what we really have to do is make America great again.
What is up, Centipedes? Welcome to MAGA Pod, the only podcast dedicated to the idea of Make America Great Again. Once again, I'm your host, Mark Hammond. So glad to be back here with you. Got a lot of reaction to last episode's interview with Antonio Sabata Jr. Great interview. He was just a really gracious guy, and like I said, probably the most based man in all of Hollywood right now. Now, on today's episode, we have War, Wayne Allyn Root. Now, if you don't know this guy or you never heard of him, I beg you to listen to this interview because Wayne Allyn Root is an absolute beast. Guy is very high energy and probably one of the strongest publicly known Trump supporters out there in the media today. Now, I'll give you the full rundown at the end of my spiel, but first, let's get to some in-house business. Now, I've talked about the Donald on Reddit.com quite a bit lately, and I'm glad to announce that Ross the Colonel and a moderator from the Sub are actually coming on the show next week. Now, this is huge news. We just recently retired episode 2 with Ross, and we recently retired episode 3 with Ben Garrison, by the way. So it's still available for free, but only through SoundCloud.com. SoundCloud is going to be where we keep all the old episodes, but you still have access to the old episodes. They still are free. Nothing's behind a paywall. So anyway, Ross and a moderator from the Donald are coming on the air to talk to me about meme magic, shit posting, and talk about all the other good God Emperor kind of stuff. I'm so pumped for them to stop by. In the meantime, you can join the fun by going to reddit.com, signing up, and then subscribing to the subreddit. It's a particular channel called The Donald. If you're not involved, I want you to be involved. Use this week. Start to lurk. Don't post anything. Just look around, see what's going on, see what other people are talking about, read some of the stuff. And once you get it, once you really get it, then join in the fun. So that's next week, either Thursday or Friday of next week. Okay, so another thing I wanted to get into is right now I have a feud with a fellow podcaster. Now, if you listen to the interviews, if you listen to my show, you can tell who I'm talking about. And you know who I have a bone to pick with. But let me just say things are coming to a head. These goddamn never-Trumpers are becoming more emboldened, spreading around this shit about voting with your conscience. I want to know, who the hell has a conscience that would even consider Hillary Clinton? Who the fuck could call themselves a conservative and even think about voting for her? And before you even go there, I don't want to hear any of your bullshit about goofy Gary Johnson. No one supports Gary Johnson in real life, just in these imagined scenarios in people's brains. Look, you know who you are. You're listening to me. I listen to your show. We obviously listen to each other. I'm going to give you a fair fucking warning. Back the fuck up. You're going to get exposed. You'll shut the fuck up and you'll get on your stupid fucking show. You'll talk to your stupid fucking fans and you'll tell them playtime is over. It's time to support Trump 100%. No more half measures. No more half-ass support. It's almost September. It's almost September motherfucking 1st. It's time to join or it's time to die. You decide. Now, you've been on the Trump train, but all you've done is bitch about everything. The speed, the accommodations are too luxurious. The passengers are too abrasive. You're tired of winning. Maybe you're thinking of getting off at some point because you heard about the Johnson Dune buggy or the Jill Stein Lincoln canoe. Your conscience is nagging you. Fuck your conscience. If you don't commit fully, I'm going to start tossing asswipes off the train. Now, Trump will forgive his enemies. He will be a conciliator to the Ted Cruzes of the world, the guac bowl Jeb Bushes of the world. He has to work with those guys. And Donald Trump is an extremely gracious man. No, I am not. The centipedes are not. We will not forget those media people. We're looking at you, the media people who fucking shit on us and tried to stop the movement, who openly embraced the mainstream media rhetoric. Now, your days are numbered, so it's unify or die. That's how it is. So I just put everyone on notice. I just put Ben on notice. I put all the never-Trumpers on notice. Seriously, people, just shut the fuck up. Unify or die. You decide, you bunch of cowards. It's hard to go from threats to plugs, especially when you're this pissed off, but you should know we have MAGAPod t-shirts and stickers. So MAGAPod has launched MAGA Shop, the place to get MAGAPod t-shirts, stickers, and other stuff. Check it out at magapod.com. We should be fully launched by September 1st. And listen, I haven't hidden the fact this show needs your help, but I'm not going to put out the begging bowl and ask for your cash for nothing. We aren't a bunch of communists. I'm not Bernie Sanders, who, by the way, will be coming to the show very soon. If you love the show and you want to help us keep this thing going, buy a shirt or some stickers or whatever. But if you are an apex centipede who really loves the show, buy a shirt, buy some stickers, throw us a few bucks on the back end by using the donate button on magapod.com. We want to keep the show going until the general election, and we do have some sponsors coming back around here in the next week or so, but we are having a rough month. So we have huge numbers, but some sponsors, they hear pro-Donald Trump, and they head for Z Hills. So how do we fight back? We get so big they can't ignore it. Sabato's Jr. episode was close to 150,000 downloads, and it hasn't even been 7 days yet. This show is a lightning rod, and we are under attack. We're being attacked by Apple, who's been brigading the reviews, refusing to allow new reviews to be added, thereby ruining the ranking. We're under attack by Never Trumpers, who continue to kind of shit on us, send me emails, talk shit to me. And third, we're under this weird stigma that we're all a bunch of nutters and that we're all a bunch of crazy people and that we don't matter. So we really need to rally around the centipedes. This is your show. It's not my show. This isn't the Mark Hammond show. This is MAGA Pod. So this is all about the movement. So I'm definitely looking for you guys' support as we move forward here. Okay, so enough of that. Let's get to everyone's favorite segment of MAGA Pod, the hate mailbag. Every day we accept emails from our fans and haters alike at show@magapod.com. Actually, we've received a lot of nice emails, so thank you for that. And it's been pretty weird to get so many more nice emails than hate emails over the past week. I think this is the first time ever that the nice email has actually outweighed the hate email, which is very weird for me. But if you're a fan and you're emailing and you say nice things, thank you. I appreciate it. It really does mean a lot to me personally. I read these emails and it helps me keep doing what I do best day in and day out. So thank you for the daily inspiration. But on this segment, on the show, we only read the best hate mail from BLM terrorists, feminists, social justice warriors, hill dogs, and hill shills. This is their time to shine on MAGA Pod. So let's dive right into our first piece of hate mail for the day. So first email is from Velasquez 818. He writes, "You're a fucking sellout. You shouldn't be saying America first. You're trying to suck white boy dick, you faggot. You're a disgrace to all Hispanics. Stop supporting Trump." Now, this one I've been getting a lot of. Somehow on Twitter, there are these people that are outing Hispanics, Trump supporters to other Hispanics, and then hate mail is sent, and Hispanics who support Trump are supposed to be shamed into not supporting Trump. Well, I'm not buying it. I'm not even one of those idiots who's going to try to spin the issue. Everything Trump said about illegals was 100% true. I live in an area, or at least I used to live in an area, like anyone with half a brain and a decent job. I moved right out to the suburbs as soon as I got the chance. I grew up in an area of Phoenix overrun with illegals and crime and drugs, and the general attitude fucking sickens me. Trump is goddamn right. We need to close the border, build the wall, start extreme vetting. I don't apologize for being America first. I never will. If you are legally welcome here, great. Glad to have you. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for your support. But please learn to speak the fucking language. That's like the number one thing for me. But the rest of them, nah, it's got to end. And like Trump said last night on his Hannity special, where he's basically out, no, out. That's basically it. That's how it's going to stop. No more. The ones that are in got to get out. No more. That's it. Out. No more. Out. That's it. Next email is from Deborah. Now, not Debbie. Deborah, who writes, "I am very disturbed by Antonio Sabato Jr.'s comments about Islam and how you both act as if Jesus was a better choice. I don't listen to your show to hear Islamophobia or be preached to." Yeah, okay, Deborah. I know for a fact you don't listen at all to the show because we've been pretty consistent with shitting on Islam and Sharia law and all that entails with some of the guests that we've had. And second of all, Antonio and I didn't have a prayer group or try to convert anyone. It was just a conversation about his faith, his belief, my faith, my belief. But I believe, and I think Antonio feels the same way, that each person has to make up their own minds and walk their own path. But if asked to comment on Islam, then guys like him or me who have faith are going to have a pretty strong opinion on it. But seriously, in all seriousness, fuck Islam. Now, okay, let's speed around some of the death threats that I've received this week. So I complained last episode. I didn't get any death threats anymore. They were really dying down, no pun intended. And boom, Tuesday, Wednesday show up, I'm flooded with death threats. So these are the most interesting ones I got. A lot of these are fresh. They're literally from this morning. So I picked out the best parts. So some of these are, quote, I'm going to run you over in my car. I'm going to run you over in your car. I'm going to get some ragheads to blow you up. I'm going to shoot you in your stupid fucking face and watch you die. I'm going to stab you to death, grind you into burgers, and then barbecue you, which is so crazy and practical. And last but not least, she emails every day, and we read one of her emails on every episode. She is the show's number one hate mail sender and number one fan, Debbie. Debbie writes, "Hey, Mark, I read your AMA. You really are a despicable human being. I wish that everything bad that happens in this world happens to you personally. I fucking hate you." As always, sassy and classy, and thanks for checking out my AMA on the Donald. And if you haven't checked out my Ask Me Anything AMA on the Donald at Reddit, go to reddit.com, sign up. You are missing out. It is literally the best Trump forum available. You got to be there. So, on today's show, we have war. Now, let me tell you about Wayne Allyn Root, or War as he is known. I first came to know about War when he was a top-line football handicapper. When I was a very young man, I used to listen to a lot of sports talk radio. I mean, like constantly, like 4 or 5 hours a day. I think he used to come on my local show, and he'd give a few picks every Friday, but his commercial was always on war, war, war. He was the NFL handicapper that everyone knew. He was pretty consistent. He was the first handicapper that I ever followed, and he actually had a pretty good record there, probably, what was it, like 97, 98, I forget the years, but he was a pretty good handicapper, in fairness to him. So it was weird to see him in 2008 as the vice presidential nominee for the Libertarian Party. And I didn't at the time didn't realize he was so political. But as time moves forward, Wayne Allyn Root goes from sports handicapper to political talking head to author to conservative superhero to now he's planning on being the next Rush Limbaugh and taking over the talk radio world, which, by the way, if he gets to be the new Rush, then I get to be the new Alex Jones, just saying. But Wayne Allyn Root is probably the most based media personality out there right now. I saw him 2 months ago on Bill Maher, and he killed it. Guy was legendary. He was the only guest I can think of in recent memory who actually has called out Bill Maher and his bullshit, and it was beautiful. You got to look that up on YouTube when you get the chance. Wayne Allyn Root is epic. Now, he just released this new book that we talk about in our interview. It's this new book called Angry White Male, How the Donald Trump Phenomena is Changing America and What We Can All Do About It to Save the Middle Class, which you can pick up on Amazon.com right now. So this is a really great conversation, very high energy. Loved Wayne Allyn Root. Let's have a chat with War.
Well, that was fast. You get right into it, don't you, Mark?
I do.
You know, I am a middle-class white kid. I was born a middle-class white kid. I've had a tremendous amount of success in America. I'm proud to say that. Never been embarrassed about that. I love America. I love the American dream. I love capitalism. All of that is great stuff. And so I was born an SOB, son of a butcher, and I was raised with a certain mindset in America. The things that every middle-class white kid that I know, and I only say that word white because I am white and I'm middle class and I can only speak for me. This book is my personal testimony. It's not anti-black, it's not anti-Hispanic, it's not anti-anyone. It's just pro-me. And I think I speak for 40 million angry white males. Everything that I believe in, everything I was taught that made America great is under massive, nonstop, vicious attack. God, country, American exceptionalism, capitalism, personal responsibility, small business, Judeo-Christian values, the Second Amendment, the ownership of guns, a love and respect for the police and the military, and, of course, the U.S. Constitution. Name something I just said that anyone can argue isn't under attack in Obama's America and in Hillary's America, in Bernie Sanders' America, in John Kerry's America, Nancy Pelosi's America, in Howard Harry Reid's America. You name the Democrat out there, a liberal Democrat, and I'll show you someone who hates patriotism, seems to hate our country, seems to hate God, and certainly want it taken out of every single schoolroom, every single courtroom. Everything in this world should be without God. Can't have a Christmas scene for the idea that it might offend one person while 99,000 are happy about it. They hate American exceptionalism. They seem to want to take it apart every day. And I even left one more out, the police and the military, and I even left out Israel. I mean, I was raised to love and respect Israel, and I see a nonstop attack on Israel with the Iran treaty and taking the side of the Palestinians, refusing to use the word Islamic and extremism or Islamic and terrorism or Muslim terrorist in the same sentence ever. Those are all strange, weird, foreign concepts to me, and I think America is being taken apart one step at a time. Everything I see every day, 100 times a day, leads me to believe it's a purposeful attack to destroy everything that I believe in and dismantle and bankrupt and drown and suffocate and strangle every business owner in this country and the great American middle class. And oh, by the way, don't take my word for the fact that most of them are white. It just so happens, coincidentally, I guess, those are white. I don't think it's coincidence. But the reality is, Pew Research did the study, and the middle class is 79% white. And CNBC says that small businesses, 28 million of them, are 85% owned by white Americans. So that's why the book's called Angry White Male. I think there's plenty of black and Asian and Hispanic Americans in the middle class, millions of them, who should be very angry too. They're collateral damage. But the attack, don't kid yourself, was always aimed at white middle class kids like me.
Now, I want to ask you this. I'm someone who I'm half Hispanic, I'm half Caucasian, but my fans and the people who follow this show, they definitely skew. I'd say 90% of skew towards would be Caucasian or white. Over 90% would skew male. And the feedback I'm getting, and kind of what you're speaking to, is that this seems like it's not a country for white males anymore. From the violence in the street to to everything, to even down to and it's, I want to get to the other component of the male part, but let's just talk about the white part for now. From the violence in the street to the way people are made to feel guilty, it almost seems like white people, and then I know people are going to take this and run it with it the wrong way, but it's going to be taken the wrong way no matter what. But seems like to me, as someone who's mixed race, I can look here and look back kind of from a vantage point, and I can say white people are under attack in America, and it seems like a lot of them don't have the courage to speak up and say anything about it.
Well, that's my book. My book's the anthem that we all need to speak up about it. But the book opens up, by the way, Mark, so you know, it opens up for the first page as saying, I dare any liberal in America. You're all going to try and say, because the title's Angry White Male, that this guy's racist. This must be like the KKK. He must be a white extremist. Well, first of all, I was born Jewish. I don't think it's any different than being black or Hispanic. I'm a minority in this country, and the Jewish people have been hated and attacked and murdered and had their property taken away all over the world. So we're certainly a minority under attack. And I never felt I was Jewish. I always felt I was American. And that's what every Hispanic should be, American. You may be Jewish American, you may be Hispanic American, you may be black American, but you're American. And that's all going away. When I was a kid, there was no difference. We were all American. I went to a classroom, I was born in Mount Vernon, New York, which is an 85% black town. And the people who weren't black were almost all, to a man and woman, Italian. And I was the one Jewish kid. And we were all American. Nobody sat around going, I hate America, I want to destroy America, I want to destroy capitalism, I'm different because I'm black, I'm different because I'm Italian. We were just patriots who loved America. That world is changing today. And there's no attack on Hispanics. Donald Trump made a mistake if anyone assumed he was attacking Hispanics. What he should have said, I know it's what he meant, is he was attacking foreigners who come into the country illegally. That's completely different. I love American Hispanics. I love American blacks. As a matter of fact, I think the key campaign theme of this election from Donald should be, listen, Hillary wants to bring in 650,000 Muslim refugees, more than even Obama did. and she's willing to spend $400 billion on them. Those are facts from the United States Congress. We're a bankrupt nation. We're going to be $20 trillion in debt by the time Obama leaves office. Where would you get $400 billion when you could have used that money, which we don't have anyway, by the way, but if you're going to print fake money and add to the debt $400 billion, you could have used it to help inner city neighborhoods filled with poor blacks and poor Hispanics, and instead you're going to use it on bringing foreigners into America who are not compatible at all with the United States of America, with the U.S. Constitution, with Judeo-Christian values. Some of them want to kill us. Some are very nice, but some Muslims want to kill us. All of them are on welfare. I have all the statistics. Every stat in my book comes from the Labor Department. Obama's United States Government Labor Department reports that of all the Muslim recent immigrants in the United States, 90% plus are on food stamps, 70% are on welfare. So when people argue, let them in, forget about whether they're Muslim, Hispanic, or Jewish from Israel. I don't really care. If they're coming and they want to work from day one and they come with money, let them in. And if they're Muslim, they come with money, let them in. If they're Jewish from Israel and they come poor, don't speak English, have no skills, no talent, and have no way to survive, and they need welfare and food stamps from day one, and you'll need to take care of them from cradle to grave, I, the Jewish kid, says do not let them in. So it doesn't matter to me if they're Hispanic or Muslim, do not let them in. Anyone who needs food stamps or welfare, do not let them in. We're bankrupt. We're getting more bankrupt every day. So I want to make sure, Mark, that anyone listening who is black, who is Hispanic, who's female, who's gay, who isn't fit into the mold of who you think is a Republican, understands that I and Donald Trump have a certain way of thinking and believing that has nothing to do with the color of your skin, but everything to do with why you came to America, and being that there's 94.7 million Americans who are working age not working, that means there are no jobs. There's no job openings. We don't need to bring anyone in. I think Donald's mistake was never say I want to ban Muslims, say I want to ban everyone. I think it's time for a complete ban on immigration temporarily until A, the job supply catches up with the people who need jobs, and B, until we can afford welfare for new people to come in, and C, there's no rush until we could figure out who the bad guys are that are terrorists that want to kill us. We are not very good at figuring that out. So don't let anybody in. It's not a Muslim issue. It's anyone could be our enemy. Let's slow it down a little bit, and let's fight for America first. Our jobs first, our incomes first, our taxes should be lower. Keep our companies here. Don't outsource jobs. These should be the goals of an American president. That's what the king of angry white males, Wayne Root says. I want Hispanic Americans to have a job, and Muslim Americans to have a job, and Black Americans to have a job, and white Americans to have a job, before you worry about bringing in a million new people from Mexico and Central America and a million new people from Muslim terrorist nations. Wouldn't that be a crazy idea? Let's get the Americans a job first? I don't know why we don't think that way. What kind of president thinks I have a responsibility to allow foreigners in, many of whom could be killers? And I actually made this argument at Freedom Fest, a famous event in Las Vegas every year, just had it in July. And it's a very libertarian event. And I don't know if you know libertarians, Mark, but they believe in open borders.
Yes, yeah.
So I had to make the case for Trump in front of 3,000 people that mostly believed in libertarian ideals. And actually, when it was over, they asked for a vote, and the two guys who were very good debaters, who were the libertarians who debated me, they lost 3-1. I won 75% of the audience. I'm very, very proud I can make the case for Donald in the right way that doesn't offend people. And but the one argument during the debate was when I said, you just can't let in Muslim refugees from war zones. None of that makes any sense. Some of them are going to kill you. And the libertarians said, listen, what about if we're letting in women and children? And I said, you don't get it. Women can be terrorist bombers, and children grow up to be terrorist bombers. And sure enough, what did you see yesterday in Turkey as we do this interview? You see a 12-year-old boy who detonated a terrorist bomb in the middle of a wedding and killed 50 people in Turkey and injured about 100 more who don't have legs and arms this morning. So I don't want to let in 12-year-olds any more than I want to let in a 30-year-old muscular man with a mustache. Guess what? A 12-year-old is just as dangerous. I don't need them in my country. We have no jobs for them. We have no money for the welfare. Let's set up a safe zone in the middle of Syria and fly jets over it, make sure nobody hurts them or kills them, and send them some food. All of that would be preferable to letting them in, but we have no obligation to let anyone in. The whole Mexico can't live in America. The whole Central America can't live in the United States. The whole Israel can't live in the United States. It's not fair for any of them to want to come here unless they are skilled and educated. Now, those immigrants immigrants I want. You send your kid to Harvard, that's the one we send home. Can you imagine? The visa's up, the 4 years at Harvard are up, we send them back to India. We must be the dumbest nation in the world. Keep all of them. I don't care what. If they're all Muslims, I say let them in. If you have a Harvard degree, I want you. I'm talking as a guy whose daughter just graduated Harvard a year and a half ago. A very proud dad who loves Harvard kids. So, the smartest and the brightest from around the world, let them in. Those who are poor and starving with their hands out, I'm sorry. We can't be open to every poor person in the world. Why not let the whole Africa in? Let 1 billion people in who have no money or are starving to death. Do you have any idea what would happen to America? There's not enough money in the world to pay for all the people that want to come here that are poor. So I think what I'm recommending in Angry White Male is simply common sense and American jobs first, American middle class first, American business owners first.
When we talk about America first, and we look at a lot of this anti-American sentiment, you got like a group like BLM, which I've contended is just a domestic terrorism organization. Do you think the root of this problem? I mean, people can talk about race relations, and it seems like a good narrative, but I kind of think, and I want to get your opinion on this. I mean, and you kind of mentioned it to your point. It kind of boils down to the economy in this country. If people had jobs, like if I had a job to get to, and I'm an angry person in Milwaukee, if I had a job to get to in the morning, I wouldn't be out lighting a gas station on fire because I would get arrested. I might not be able to keep my job. Do you think a lot of the racial tension that's happened this summer, especially with this being probably one of the most violent summers in history, do you think it boils down to the failed economic policies of Obama, or deeper, or do you think it's deeper than that?
No, I think it's the failed policy of Obama, but I think it's also, when people say, "Oh, you must be a racist because you constantly criticize Obama." Well, it's true. I really dislike Obama very badly. I also dislike Hillary, so I must hate all white women. I dislike Harry Reid. I must hate white Mormons. I dislike Nancy Pelosi. I must hate Italians. What it really comes down to is I just dislike the economic and the political policies of liberals. It has nothing to do with the color of your skin. When I was a kid growing up, I hated George McGovern. I said he's a commie, and I was right. These people are to the left of the worst liberals in the history of the world. When you look at what Obama believes in, there's no difference between what he believes in, what Castro did to Cuba, and what Hugo Chavez and Maduro did to Venezuela. Socialist leftist policies, you can call them by a nice name like liberal. You could call them progressive. You could call them diversity. You could call them social justice. You could call them equality. You could call them fairness. They have all kinds of politically correct words now to describe socialism, Marxism, and communism, because liberals know that everyone has no problem with the word liberal or progressive or fair, but they know everyone gets scared when they hear communist and Marxist. But it's the same philosophy, Mark. It's exactly the same. It's take the money away from me, who owns a business, and redistribute it to those who don't work as hard as me. I put in so many hours in a day. If I told you what my days have been like with the launch of this book tomorrow, if I told you what my days were like, you wouldn't believe me. You'd say it's not possible. You'd have to be a machine. You'd have to be an android. You must be a cyborg, Wayne Root. I don't sleep anymore. All I do is work 24 hours a day. And if I happen to make a hit, the government says, "Oh, well, we should get 60% of it." Their hand is out. They had nothing to do with my success. They didn't build it. Only I did. That's the biggest lie ever told. My taxes pay for all of their roads, their hospitals, their highways, their airports. We built everything, the business owners of America. Government built nothing. Obama had it all. He's not only a liar, but he just had it all wrong. It's all backwards. We built it. You didn't build anything. There is no government without our tax money. Without guys like my grandfather who came to America with nothing, without a nickel in his pocket from Germany in 1917 or so, and somehow over 20 years saved enough money as a butcher to open a butcher store of his own, and then it was a one-man butcher store, and then a two-man, and then a three-man, and then a four-man, and then eventually a six-man butcher store, and he became a very successful small businessman and a pillar of his community. That's what America's about, and you got to give everyone who comes here, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, white, black, Hispanic, whatever they are, you need to give them the same chance my grandfather had. The only way to give them that chance is to have very low taxes, to replicate the Hong Kong model. Unlike Donald Trump, I'm a guy who not only says stuff, but then has hours and thousands of hours of meticulous research and details to back it up. And so everything Donald says is right. I haven't found anything that's wrong. They criticize him for it because they see he doesn't have enough facts. Well, that's okay. I got enough facts for him. I got all the facts. Angry White Male's filled with them. Hong Kong is the most prosperous prosperous economy in the world, and they were the poorest territory in the world 50 years ago. How did they do it? What was the difference? They simply cut the taxes to 15% flat. For everybody, business and personal, 15% flat. And you know what the tax is on capital gains?
Zero.
As a matter of fact, the entire China has zero capital gains tax. How can we compete with them when our taxes are so high? When you realize ours are not only 43% when you add in the Obamacare surcharge for personal income, they're 35 for for corporate income tax, and then you first add in, like California has almost 14% state income tax, and then you add in FICA tax, which if you own your own business, you're paying 16%. The whole thing is yours. Now you add in the Obamacare surcharge. Now you add in sales tax. Now you add in property tax. Now you add in every time my car is registered. You know, and I happen to like nice cars. In Nevada, it's 2% of the value of your car.
Oh,
and
Jesus
they give it
Christ.
a name. It's not a tax, you know.
Yeah.
It's not a tax. It's just $2,000 every year for each of my cars. So, you know, you're talking about a giant redistribution of people's incomes. They have no money left to start a business, to expand a business, to keep a business going. When a bad pothole comes in the road and you can't make payroll, where do you get the money from? You just made the government a $50,000 payment. It was all your money.
Mm-hmm.
Taxes destroy every opportunity to create jobs in this country and to create wealth and to create opportunity and to create mobility. Taxes, regulations, Obamacare is the death spiral. I call it the axis of evil. And you cannot make money when liberals institute the axis of evil. Every minute, Mark, of my life, I'm trying to jump around taxes, I'm trying to jump around regulations, and then Obamacare hits me in the face and knocks me unconscious, and then an IRS audit comes along and stabs me through the throat, and then they bring up climate change, and when it's done, I'm a dead man. You can't run a business in this environment anymore, and that's why GDP is almost zero, and that's why there are no jobs. All the lies you hear in the government, lies. There are no jobs. They're all part-time jobs, cleaning toilet bowls and tending bar. There isn't a decent middle-class job that's been created in the last 8 years under Barack Obama. Not one. And last thing I'll say, just to show again, I come with facts. So from 2009 to 2014, I don't have updated numbers, but from 2009 to 2014 in New York City, will you admit New York City is the liberal bastion of America?
Yes, most definitely.
It's not a conservative stronghold, right?
Yeah.
It's the most liberal, all-Democratic city you'll find other than maybe Chicago or Detroit. But New York's right up there. And in that liberal bastion, there were about 100,000 jobs created from 2009 to 2014 under Obama. Now, that's not a lot. That's nothing out of, a population of, 19 million people? It's nothing. Mm-hmm. But do you know what the breakdown of those 100,000 jobs is? 97,000 paid the lowest wages possible, and 3,000 paid what they call middle-class wages, which I call poverty. 3,000 jobs paid $45,000 a year or more. 97,000 of the 100 paid less than $45,000. They paid basically minimum wage, low wage, and they don't even come with health insurance. That's in the liberal bastion of New York under Barack Obama. So when I tell you there's no real jobs, I'm not making this stuff up. What you keep hearing in the news is thousands of jobs each month are created for someone who hasn't gone to college, who might be here illegally, who is willing to take $7 an hour, and who can't support their family without food stamps and housing allowances and aid-dependent children, free meals at school, and free Obamacare. That's the only jobs being created. And I believe it's all a plan to make all of us dependent on government so we can't make money anymore, and all of us live in shared misery like Cuba, like Venezuela, like the old Soviet Union, like Greece today, like Spain's becoming, like Italy's becoming, like France is becoming. Chronic high unemployment, everybody on government entitlements. That's what these liberals are looking to create, and they're destroying the American dream. They're destroying American exceptionalism. They're destroying capitalism.
Let me ask you this about the end of the byline to your book is how Donald Trump phenomena is changing America. Now, as a guy who hosts a pro-Trump show, I talk to a lot of millennials. I see how it changes it with you have people way more active. You have people who would never have been active. Now they're active. They're very active. You see a strong sense of patriotism. You see a strong sense of, people would say nationalism, but I think that has its own, that word has its own problems in there. But I don't
just
think there's
love America. How about just love America?
Yeah,
that's what I say.
They're just patriots. So, how do you see the Trump phenomena changing America as this thing continues to grow? I mean, we look at the rallies, and we look at her rallies. We don't see very many people around, but we look at his rallies, and they're packed. They're packed to the gills, and you got people who are talking, who've catched onto this "Make America Great Again." You got this, and it's a weird, diverse, huge, beautiful group of people. I mean, you have people who are your traditional conservatives. You have you have Hispanics like myself. You have, you even have this other group, the Bikers for Trump. You have this other group called Fags Fire Back. I mean, you got this, and you have these unpolitically correct groups. You got politically correct groups. How do you see the Trump phenomena changing America right now?
Well, I'll tell you what, Mark, I'm very proud to say I was the first guy in the country to support Trump other than Trump. And the reason I know that is because I started writing about Donald Trump being a great president, having a chance to win the election last spring. And I don't mean spring of 2016. I mean spring of 2015, when Donald Trump hadn't even announced yet. And everybody said he does this every 4 years. He's never going to run. And everybody said if he did run, he couldn't ever release his financial information. He'll never file with the FEC. This is never going to happen. It'll fizzle 5 minutes after he starts. And then when he filed, he had like 1 or 2% in the polls, and everyone said his chances of winning were zero. And I kept writing these nice articles saying that I thought Trump was our Bulworth. Do you remember that movie? Or are you too young for that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
So it was 1998, and it was Warren Beatty starring as a U.S. Senator running for re-election, but he was suicidal. He wanted to kill himself. And so he didn't care anymore what people thought of him, so he decided he could say anything he wanted. So he just started telling the truth. He said, let me try telling the truth. And I don't really care if it offends people, screw them. And so he started going to black churches and saying, you do realize that Democrats like me, he was a Democrat. He said, you do realize Democrats like me promise you the world at election time because we want your support, your money, your votes. And then when we're elected, you don't see us again for 6 years as a senator. And we do nothing for you. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because, A, they want to keep them dependent. That's good for the Democratic Party. And B, I think his words were, because you don't have any money. So I really don't care about you. If a lobbyist gives me $1 million, I care. You give me $10, it helps me get reelected, but I'm never going to give you the time of day again. So he said that, and people were like, ooh, oh my God. And then they started to realize he was right, and he was just telling the truth, and they started cheering. I mean, it took a few days and a few speeches over the movie, but they decided that he was right, and they started to like him and respect him for telling the truth. And when the movie ends, he's just won a re-election by a landslide, even though people thought he had no chance because he was having a mental breakdown and things he was saying were crazy. Well, I think liberals think Donald Trump's having a mental breakdown, and they think he's crazy. I think he's music to my ears. Everything he says is the truth, and we're so not used to hearing the truth that we think the truth is crazy. If it's politically incorrect, it's crazy and it's racist. No, it's not. If you happen to be a criminal and you happen to be of color, and I simply say it, that doesn't make me a racist to say it out loud. So Democrats will tell you, Mark, that the poor are predominantly minority. The poor are black and Hispanic for the most part. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's true or not, but let's say I assume it's correct, because there are plenty of poor white people too in America, and with Obama as president, every day more and more.
Oh, yeah.
And so assuming it's true that the poor are predominantly minority, there would be two ways to change their lot in life. I would choose one way. If you're assuming that white people are middle class and rich and above, and the minorities are poor, I want to lift them up and make them equal with us. I want them to be as prosperous and enjoy the great middle class and own a business just like I do. The second way would be to target the people with money who are white and try and rip them down and steal all their money. That's what I believe has been happening for 8 years. There's no attempt to lift black people or Hispanic people up. There's only an attempt to shoot white people down, to make us as poor and miserable as the people you're claiming you want to help. So in effect, you're leaving all of us helpless and dependent on government. Mm-hmm. That's what's happened. That's the philosophy. It's right out of my book. I've got a chapter in Angry White Male called Braveheart. Donald Trump is our Braveheart, is the name of the chapter. And my favorite movie of all time is Mel Gibson in Braveheart. He plays Sir William Wallace, the hero of the Scottish people. They had zero chance to ever beat the mighty British Empire. But with his help and his inspiration, they beat them, and they won their independence. But along the way, they went through a lot of troubles and a lot of tribulations and a lot of death and a lot of losses, but he held them together, and eventually they won. But he faced attacks from everywhere, not only from the king and the queen, which today would be, I think, Obama and Hillary, or the king and the queen. King Edward Longshanks is Obama, and she's the queen, the most vicious woman that ever lived. And then the other people that attacked them nonstop were their own Scottish noblemen who claimed they were on the people's side, but kept bashing them in the head and knocking them back down again and keeping them as serfs in order to collect bribes from the king. You know, the noblemen would get titles and money and estates, and so these bribes would force them to be turncoats and sell out their own people. The Scottish nobleman today is the Republican establishment. Don't think I'm here selling the Republican Party. I'm selling Donald Trump, but I think he's fighting both Republican establishment and Democrat establishment. They're both no good. They're both out to screw over the people, and they're both out to make themselves rich. And one man wants to stop that and be a middle-class warrior, or maybe two men do, Donald Trump and Wayne Allen Root. I'm a middle-class warrior, and I want to save them. But the end result is that you wind up getting attacked by all sides, and that's why people are confused. Why are billionaires like Mike Bloomberg, like Warren Buffett, like Mark Cuban, the Koch brothers, who are the most conservative guys in the world, all of them are united against Donald Trump? Mm-hmm. Does that make any sense? It only does if you realize they're not out for us. They're only out for themselves. These billionaires don't care about us anymore, whether they're liberal or conservative. So the liberals care about keeping the poor poor, and the conservatives care about making their donors who give them $1 million checks, who run the biggest companies in the world, multinational billion-dollar corporations. They want to make them happy, but everybody sells out the middle class and small business. No one looks out for us. No one cares for us. Donald Trump's come along, and I do believe, and I'm friends with him, so I do know him in real life, and my best friend is his best friend who's spent time hanging out with him for many years now, and they're very close long before he ever decided to run for office. He believes that Donald really is in this to help the little guy. This is not an act. This is not something you say at election time. He really genuinely believes we're getting screwed and wants to be the one to save us. I believe he is our Sir William Wallace.
Well, let me ask you this, because this has been a big topic on this show. I'm sure you're not aware, but we have our own fight with Ben Shapiro and a lot of the Never Trumpers. We're very vocal with our fight with the Never Trumpers.
I can't stand those guys. I've gotten so turned off by those guys. They're such little twerps, I swear.
Good. Let me ask you. Thank you. We love you now. Let me ask you this though. So when you look at the Never Trumpers, I mean, it's been our opinion and a lot of the fans' opinion that these are people who are enabling Hillary. That if you were to go on, if you were a person of prominence and you had a show or you had a bully pulpit to talk on, and you spent every moment talking up every mainstream media anti-Trump talking point, you are a Hillary enabler. You're not being you're not quote unquote talking your conscience. You're purposely working against the Trump movement and this, I don't know what you want to call it, alt-right, new conservative. I guess it's too really new to kind of throw a label on it. But whatever this is, it's people like that are kind of throwing it under the bus. Why do you think these people do they not know the stakes? I mean, is it as good as they don't know the stakes and they're maybe a little dumb and so it's okay that they're wrong? Or are they totally wrong because they're out for themselves?
Well, my first answer is you're not 100% right. You're 1,000% right. I agree with you 1,000%. And it's not because I'm on this broadcast with you, Mark, because I do hundreds of interviews and I've got my own 3-hour talk show every day. It's #1 afternoon talk show in Vegas. We're about to expand nationwide. We're about to be nationally syndicated. I'm kind of the next Rush Limbaugh. and I'm telling you, I say this all day long, every day. I always knew that. Well, first of all, here's the first metamorphosis. When I was a kid, my butcher father, my dad was a very different kind of dude. He was a Jewish Republican conservative butcher from Brownsville, Brooklyn. They don't make many of those,
Mm-hmm.
And so my dad taught me to be a real conservative and a real Republican and a real, anti-tax kid and a middle-class warrior. And my dad taught me that, we were in the fight together, and eventually he owned his own butcher store too, like my grandfather. So we were small businessmen. That's what we thought of ourselves as. And we were in the fight with Walmart and General Motors and GE because we're all for capitalism. Big business, small business, we all have a chance to be as big as GE. That's what my father taught me. That's why I love America so much. That was the theory of America. Now, my first rude awakening was, in the last election with Romney and now in this one, I felt like big business sided with Obama and now with Hillary. Big business doesn't even care who wins. They don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. Wall Street gave their money to Obama last time. Wall Street's giving their money this time to Hillary, far more than they gave it to Obama last time. They no longer care about capitalism. They only care about themselves. So I have no love anymore for any of these billion-dollar companies. I have no love for any of these billion-dollar CEOs. This is where it's all changed. See, that the Republican Party thinks it's supposed to be conservatives like Ben Shapiro. It's supposed to be a straight list down. I'm supposed to be against abortion. I'm supposed to be for capitalism. I'm supposed to be against gay marriage and gay rights. First of all, no gay person's ever done anything to hurt me, so I really don't give a crap. If they want to get married, let them get married. Yeah. I don't care. So that's how Donald feels too. And if they want to use a bathroom, I think it's absurd, but let them use a bathroom. I don't care. It just doesn't bother me. That's how Donald thinks. If you're conservative, you're supposed to be for free trade agreements. I've been a conservative my whole life, and I was always for free trade agreements. I finally woke up and realized before Donald that it ain't working. They're destroying and gutting the middle class. So is it really conservative to support a free trade agreement that isn't really free trade? It's crony capitalism. It's offshoring all of our jobs, killing our middle class, and making sure we could buy cheap goods, but only because we have no jobs anymore. That doesn't make sense. So I don't necessarily agree with a straight party line on everything anymore. And then along comes Donald, and he's the first guy that articulates all of this. He zigs and zags exactly where I zig and zag. I can only think of one thing I've ever disagreed with him on. I don't agree with eminent domain. That's my own, and it's such a minor issue. Yeah. How many of us in our whole lifetime are going to have our house bulldozed by the government? So I'm not exactly, uptight over disagreeing over eminent domain, but I think that's another area where government is trying to control your life, and I don't think they have a right to do that. Donald thinks otherwise because he's a businessman and he's used it to get some houses out of his way when he built a casino. I get it. I totally get it. That's life. But that's the only thing I've ever found I disagree with him on. Other than that, he's on the money with every zig and every zag. So I think things have changed, and I'm not friends with the establishment anymore. I'm not friends with the Ted Cruz conservatives anymore. They've chosen to be a wrecking ball to wreck us so they can say, nah, I told you so, we could never win. And they're really starting to bother me a lot. I want to slap them and make them go away because they're annoying. And when this is all over, I've promised them in several articles. I wrote one for WorldNet Daily the other day. I wrote one for Town Hall. I wrote one for Breitbart. I said, let me promise you something. In 1964, Goldwater won the nomination. And that was when my political career started. I was 3 years old in my father's arms, handing out literature for the great Barry Goldwater. And so that was my first taste of politics at the age of 3. And when Goldwater won, all the establishment said, and all the moderate Republicans like Mitt Romney, they said, he's too conservative, he'll lead us to a defeat, and we're going to sit on our hands and let him lose so we could say we told you so. And two guys went against that theory. One was Ronald Reagan, and the other was Richard Nixon, believe it or not. Nixon, who had lost in 1960, even though he was way more moderate than Goldwater, he took Goldwater's side, and he campaigned all over the country for him. He didn't love him. He wasn't his cup of tea, but he was a party man. He stuck with the Republican Party, and he helped Goldwater. Goldwater loses, and he loses badly. And all the people who sat on their hands that didn't campaign were never heard from again. Not one of them came out of the fire with a political career. They lost everything because everyone hates a traitor. Everyone hates a rat who leaves a ship. Whether the ship is sinking or not, they hate him. And so all these people that have cast their lot that I'm sitting on my hands, I'm not going to support Donald Trump, they will never be heard from again. Glenn Beck, are you telling me you haven't noticed his entire radio network, his listenership, it's all going down the tubes. These guys are losing everything because they made dumb decisions, they had bad gun instincts, and then they acted like little crybabies instead of coming into the fold and saying, hey, look, you can either say, I'm sorry, or maybe you're not that big a man to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, and you could say, I think I was right, I would have rather had Ted Cruz, but the reality is Donald's the nominee, and the difference between him and Hillary is life or death for America, capitalism, and American exceptionalism, and Israel, and jobs. And you could, if you can't see that, you're not a conservative. You're mentally ill. You're just a person with a huge ego. You know, you've got a huge ego getting in the way of your thought process. And so they won't do those two things, then they can never come back on my ship. And I believe whether Trump wins or loses, I will come out of it as a hero to the conservative movement, and these people will be disappeared, anonymous, and never seen again, because no one likes a traitor. And 4 years ago, I'm not a hypocrite. I did the same thing. 4 years ago, you may not even know my background, Mark. Do you know that I was the Libertarian vice presidential nominee in 2008?
I do. You know how far back I remember you, and I have like near the end of our interview, I have one last question for you. But I remember you, me personally, from I used to hear you on the radio, on sports radio, as
sports handicapper, yeah.
War,
yeah.
WAR. Yeah, I used to love that. I used to think like, oh, war, that's the coolest thing ever. So that's where I followed you from there, from then on. So
long before I got in politics, I got a star on the Las Vegas Walk of Stars, one of 70 people in the world for being the greatest odds maker and handicapper in Las Vegas history. So long before I got in politics, I had a whole other life, but now my life's very different from that. But having said that, I don't even remember where I was at. I've forgotten where I was at. You got me on a different course, and I forgot where I was at. But the end result is, look, Donald is the right guy. I'm a small businessman. I won't survive 4 more years of Barack Obama, and Hillary has already said she is an extension. She is the legacy of Barack Obama. She is the 3rd term of Barack Obama. I won't make it. So if you're so selfish out there, Mr. Cruz fans, if you're so selfish, Mr. Kasich fans or Jeb Bush fans, that you are willing to let millions of good, patriotic, honest, law-abiding American conservative business owners like me go by the wayside and lose everything we've got because you couldn't let your ego get out of the way. Oh, I know where I was at. So I ran for the Libertarian vice presidential nomination and won the VP. I was on the ticket with Bob Barr. So now I was considered the guy who would be the presidential nominee in 2012. And so, look, we all know a libertarian's not going to win, but sometimes it's pretty cool to be a big fish in a small pond and be the presidential candidate of a third party, the third party. That's pretty cool. When you travel around the world, you say, I was the presidential candidate, and people are all impressed, and they salute you, and it sounds great. I did pretty well being the VP candidate. And so I became a media star on Fox News. It was pretty cool. So if I'd become the presidential nominee, you'd see me in the media day and night as the third party presidential nominee in 2012, and again today. But I made a decision that America wouldn't survive a second term of Obama very well, and they certainly won't survive at all with a 3rd term of Obama. And I made the decision that I would put my ego aside, and I would go on Fox News, and I would endorse Mitt Romney as the former Libertarian VP. And I did that. And I didn't like Mitt Romney. Keep in mind, I thought he was a wishy-washy, moderate nothing. But at least he liked capitalism. He was a businessman like me. So I said, I could live with that. I can't live with a second term of Obama. He'll destroy all of us. So I went ahead and I gave up my entire career, gave up the chance to be the presidential nominee. And if I wasn't in 12, I guarantee you I would have been the presidential nominee today. And I gave it all up. And I would be running against the man I love, Donald Trump. That wouldn't make any sense. So I made the right decision. I did what was right for America over what was right for Wayne Root personally. And I went back to the Republican Party because it doesn't help to be in a third party. There's not a country that rewards third parties. You can't win. So all you're doing is taking votes away from the guy who can win. And that makes no sense when the country's in jeopardy like it is today. If this was, like 1980 or 1990, I would easily entertain running as a third party presidential candidate. It would be fun. I'd get my point across, and then you'd lose, and you'd go home and you'd write a book, right? But today, America's not going to make it. This is serious stuff. Israel could be nuked, right? A smart bomb could go off in New York. Muslims are coming through the border. We're being overrun by illegals. Things are happening. They're so bad. The GDP is the lowest 8 years in the history of America. No one's telling you that. No one's saying that the GDP, gross domestic product, is lower for 8 straight years under Obama than it ever was since 1776 in the history of this country's founding. No one is saying that Herbert Hoover, the ultimate loser in the history of presidents, had a better GDP than Barack Obama during his 4 years as president. No one's saying that. The media, it's a media blackout. They will not tell you how bad Obama is. And by the way, to accomplish the worst GDP in history for 8 years, he ran up $10 trillion, the most debt in history. So it's like a double whammy. It's like football. My background was football, as you said. It's like you're down 7-0. And you're about to score and make it 7-7, and you'll have all the momentum and you feel good about yourself. And your running back has the ball knocked out at the 1-inch yard line. And instead of going in to tie it 7-7, the other team scoops it up and runs 99 yards for a touchdown, and you're down 14-0. You never recover from that. That's what's about to happen to America. That's the difference between Trump winning or Hillary winning. If Trump wins, it's 7-7 and we got some momentum. If Hillary wins, it's 14-0 and we are mentally blown out and we're done. Stick a fork in us. okay? That's what's happening. So I gave up my career to endorse Romney, and I gave up my career to be the most fierce defender in the media of Donald Trump. In neither case am I getting the glory. In neither case am I the candidate. But you know what? It's better for my 4 children, including my 8-year-old daughter. So I had to do it for America. So I did the right thing. And I think writing Angry White Male will help inspire people to do the right thing. And all those never-Trumpers are doing the wrong thing. And they're getting me really, really angry and turned off. And I'm promising them, your careers are over. You're through. You have no place in this party anymore because of the way you took your ball and you went home because you're a little crybaby.
Well, let me ask you this. There's the one in Angry White Male. My listeners would kill me if I didn't bring this up, because one of the most important words in that 3-word phrase is male. If this was Angry White Feminist, or this was, it would fly off the shelves. It'd be number 1, and you'd be on Rachel Maddow, and she'd be kissing your ass. There's something about male. There's something, especially with a lot of Trump supporters, and you see this among Trump supporters. There's something with masculinity and being able to act like a man that's been slowly chipped away till we get to this point where you're almost ashamed if you're a man in this country, especially if you're a Trump supporter and you're a male who is not politically correct. Then you're public enemy number 1. What does the male component play in your book, Angry White Male? Or what do you think about that?
You know what? I made a point at the very start of the book, and I said, this book isn't like you're not supposed to pick it up if you're an angry white woman, or if you're an angry Hispanic woman, or if you're an angry black woman, or an angry black man. This book is just called Angry White Male because it's me. It's my personal testimony, and I was born a white boy, middle class, in Mount Vernon, New York, on the Bronx borderline. I could only speak for me, and I think it's kind of an anthem of 40 million angry white men, which is the base of Donald Trump's election. But before anybody thinks that I could even have a racist bone in my body, I just wrote a commentary. I'm not sure where it's going to appear yet. I sent it to 3 top conservative websites about 5 minutes before I picked up this interview with you, before I picked up the phone and did this interview with you, Mark. So I don't know where it's going to be, but the commentary, let me give you the name. I got to remember what I titled it. It was Trump's Ace in the Hole, the Black Vote. And I said, look, my new book's called Angry White Male, and I consider myself kind of the man speaking for angry white males, 40 million of them. So I'm kind of the ultimate king of angry white males, leading an angry white male revolution. And I'm telling you that Trump can't win the election with only angry white men. Trump can only win the election. In my opinion, what's going to be the ace in the hole that puts him over the top is going to be he's going to get 15% of the black vote, which will be an historic high in modern history for a Republican candidate. And I think he should spend a tremendous amount of time and a tremendous amount of money making the case that cities like Chicago and Detroit are like third world hellholes in the inner cities. Not the whole city, of course. The Miracle Mile's nice. But go in the black neighborhood in Chicago and tell me how nice that is. It's a third world hellhole. And people are living like they would in Mexico or in Kabul. And guess what? We don't want that for Americans. I want to lift people up. I repeat, black, Hispanic, any color. I want to lift up. I want to be I want prosperity for all. I want to be an optimist.
Do you think males are especially targeted by when you look at the liberal left? I mean, it seems they take a special pleasure in dominating males.
Well, they take a special pleasure in white. It just so happens, white, male, straight Christian. I think that's the combination.
Yep.
And I'm white, and I'm male, and I'm straight, and I am a Jew turned evangelical Christian, by the way. And I took Jesus Christ as my Savior 25 years ago. So I guess I'm under target, and I love Israel. So there's 5 in a row I'm under target. I'm a gun owner. So there's 6 in a row. I'm a business owner. There's 7 in a row. I believe in American exceptionalism. I believe God has blessed America, and we're the greatest nation in world history. That's 8 in a row they're under attack. Everything I believe in under attack. I love the police. I cry. I'm a grown man. I'm very macho, but yet I cry every time I hear a policeman's been killed. And they want to attack policemen. So there's another one. And I love the military, and there's another one. So everything that we believe in and all the things that I believe have made, I was led to believe by my parents, who are great people, made America great, is under attack. Liberals hate it. And see, anyone could say that, and liberals, if they were here, would nod their heads and go, no. They'd shake their head from side to side. You're wrong. I love America as much as you. I'm a witness that they're all liars. See, that's the difference in my new book, Angry White Male. The key chapter in the book, in my opinion, other than Braveheart, which shows you, exactly where America is, same place it was, Scotland was with Sir William Wallace. But the key chapter, in my opinion, is Chapter 5 is called The Roots of This Disaster. Excuse the pun for Wayne Root. Mm-hmm. But The Roots of This Disaster, Obama and I at Columbia University. See, I graduated Columbia class of 83, and my classmate was Barack Obama.
Oh, wow.
And if you look at the graduation list, it was Wayne Root with an R and Obama with an O. Our last names were just 4 away from each other on the graduation list. And I didn't know Obama. I never saw him in my life at Columbia, which is another strange story. I think this guy's a Manchurian candidate. Was never there. I mean, I knew everyone in the entire political science department. Not only did I not know him, which is almost impossible, none of the professors, when I went back and questioned them and said, how come I didn't know him? Did you know him? They went back and looked at their records. There's no record of Obama ever being in any of their classes. It's the strangest story I've ever seen. He is like a Manchurian candidate out of the KGB. I don't know what he is. I don't know where he came from. I don't know how he could graduate the same college as me, the same day as me, same major as me, political science, and both pre-law.
And never
be
saw
in
him.
all the same classes and departments, and never saw him, never heard of him, never met him, don't know a professor who ever met him, and don't know a student who ever met him. And I've done all the questioning and all the searching, and nobody's ever seen him. But let's assume he was there, and I've always said, the college wouldn't be involved in a cover-up. He must have gone there, and he acted as a student the same way he acted as a president, right? He's always playing golf, and he's always at Martha's Vineyard. Right? He never does the job of being a president. His life's golf and vacations. So he must have treated the college the same way. He was just never in class. That's always been my assumption. So assume he was there. All I could tell you, Mark, is that all the kids who I ever met at Columbia, the ones I knew, all of them were white, and they all hated white people. Most of them were Jewish, and they hated Israel. God. They flew Palestinian flags.
Oh my
they
God.
spit on American flags. They thought that Ronald Reagan was a war criminal. They clapped and gave a standing ovation in my class when a kid ran in and said, Reagan's been shot, they've assassinated the president. That was what the kid said, which led us to believe he was dead. And I swear before God, I take a lie detector test tomorrow, my class stood up and gave a standing ovation when they thought Reagan was dead.
Oh my.
So these are people that now, you ask me, Mark, where are they now? I get Columbia College today 4 times a year. Mm-hmm. All the students who told me that they were communists, that the whole college, they were all communists. They bragged they were communists. They hated America, and they said, someday I'm going to grow up and take down America and take down the white power structure. They're white kids saying this. This is the problem with America. It's not black people. It's not Hispanics. White, guilt-ridden liberals are the root of all of our problems in America. And they're the ones in power. Despite Obama, other than him, it's still all white people in power. There aren't Hispanics in power. It's white liberals. It's Hillary. It's Nancy Pelosi. It's Harry Reid. It's John Kerry. It's all those types that are in power. And they're all spoiled brats from rich families who went to fancy elite universities. And they all learned to hate America, to hate the flag, to hate American exceptionalism, and to want to make us less exceptional, and to rip off all the white power structure and take our money away. That's what they believed in. And when I read Columbia College today, my classmates are all in 2 places. They either work in the Obama administration running the country. Mm-hmm. How scary is that?
Yeah, that's.
Or they're in the media running the biggest shows on TV, the biggest news shows on TV.
That's even scarier.
And running the New York Times and things like that, right? It's not like my friends are like cameramen. You know, these are people that are the executive producer of the NBC Morning Show, the executive producer of the ABC Tonight News, Evening News. These are the biggest people in America I went to college with. George Stephanopoulos was my classmate, right? These are the most important people in America. When I was there, they spit on American flags. And they hated America, they hated white people, they hated Israel. So now you understand what we're facing. They can stand all they want and say, I pledge allegiance to the flag. They can wear a flag pin while they're a Democratic candidate. Mm-hmm. They're lying. They don't love America. They don't love the police. They don't love the military. I was there. They hate white people, and they want to destroy us. I saw it. So I know what's happening, and I call it all out in this book, Angry White Male. And I think when you ask me, what did Trump do? He allowed a person like me to call it all out. In other words, he emboldened me to say what's on my mind finally and stop worrying about political correctness. Lay it all on the line because America's on the line. Let's go fight for it.
All right. So Wayne Allyn Root, the book is Angry White Male. It comes out tomorrow. How the Donald Trump phenomena is changing America and what we can do to save the middle class. Let me ask you one really last question just to indulge myself before I let you out the door. So we talked about your past. How you were one of my favorite handicappers from back in the day. So I'm thinking, I'm a Cardinals fan. Cardinals 11-1 to win the Super Bowl. Am I wasting my money, or is it worth a shot?
Oh, I don't know. You got to remember what first of all, that's a very small part of my life now. I still do it, but it's a very small part. And I always have told people, my only job is week to week throughout the entire NFL season and college season as well, pick winners against the point spread week to week. So it's based on what they did last week. I predict what they'll do this week. It's all in the line. I study the line. I study where the money's going. I watch what the best gamblers in America are doing. I watch what the worst gamblers in America are doing, and I figure out who I'm going to take. What I do has nothing to do with, at the end of the year, who will be the winner. I don't know where Arizona will be at the end of the year. There's certainly a great team. I love your coach, and if the quarterback Palmer's healthy, they'll be just fine. I personally have been a lifelong Dallas Cowboy fan, and I know I'm prejudiced, but I think they're headed to the Super Bowl. I think Dallas, with Elliott, a running back, has an unstoppable offense that no one has ever seen in NFL history. I believe they'll score 30 to 40 points every week, and their defense is good enough to keep the opponent under 20 each week, maybe 24, and Dallas will outscore that every week. They have a chance at a really amazing season. Arizona's really good. Carolina's really good. There's a few really good teams. Seattle's still really good. Yeah. So who knows? At the end of the season, I don't put my money on who's going to win for the season. I worry each week, will Dallas cover the point spread? That's what I worry about. So It's a very different way of looking at things. And so having said that, I'll leave you with one interesting tidbit.
Okay.
I have bet a lot of money on Donald Trump to win the election.
Oh, really?
I've made that bet with a lot of liberal friends, and they said, well, how do you determine the odds? I said, okay, we'll go online. You just go to England. You look at any sports book in England, and you go look at the odds. And believe it or not, in England, Donald Trump is a 320 to 100 underdog, 3.2 to 1 underdog. And so if you bet $10,000, they have to pay you $32,000. I think it's the greatest overlay in the history of betting. They must not understand. They actually think Hillary's a lock because they must believe the lies the media here is telling them. They don't even notice that there are polls. I'm telling you, it was 3.2 to 1 as of 3 days ago, even though there were polls out all showing 2-point lead, 1-point lead, 2-point lead. How could it be 3 to 1? They don't know what they're doing. They're just completely blowing it listening to the media. So I went and took that overlay with as many people as I could, and I got a lot of money bet on Donald Trump. So go Trump.
Okay, I want to thank Wayne Allyn Root for stopping by today. War. And again, you can pick up his new book, Angry White Male, How the Donald Trump Phenomena is Changing America and What We Can All Do to Save the Middle Class. You can pick that up on Amazon.com today. I also want to thank show contributor Robert Mullen. I want to thank show contributor Ross the Colonel. Also, I want to thank all my friends over at The Donald. I was so honored to be named a moderator for their Discord, and I personally think the Donald Discord is probably the coolest thing ever. A lot of cool people, a lot of great live conversation happening on that Discord server. I also want to thank Lee Dean for editing and producing, and I want to thank everyone for listening and downloading. Y'all the real MVPs. Now, just want to point out a few things. If you're not following us on Twitter, please do so. It's at MAGAPod. We're also on Gab. I don't know how many people are on Gab nowadays, but it's the new Twitter, kind of better than Twitter, actually, really better than Twitter. You can find us there, same thing, at MAGAPod. Also, check out our website at magapod.com. You'll be able to find the shop. You'll be able to find the article link. You'll be able to find the episode list. So even the old episodes, like I mentioned at the top of this episode, everything will always remain free. There's no paywall. So if you want to go back, you want to listen to episode 1 with Leo Dunson, you want to listen to episode 2 with Ross the Colonel, you want to listen to episode 3 with Ben Garrison, you can do that. You can go back and you can listen to those old episodes free of charge. They're all the old episodes are available through the SoundCloud, either SoundCloud.com or the SoundCloud app. So definitely check that out. Don't use SoundCloud for the newer stuff because it's not as great, but SoundCloud is great if you're looking to listen to an old episode. It's probably better to listen on the PC. I'm not sure how the app works. The app didn't work that well for me, but all our data, all that information is out there on SoundCloud, and you can download from SoundCloud, so you can download those old episodes as well. Or if you really need an old episode, email me at show@magapod.com, and I'll send you a link. We'll figure out a way to do it. We're going to try to get Ben Garrison back on here this month to make up for the fact that we retired his old episode, and we want to check in with what's happening with him. And I know he's interested in coming back, so it'll be a great conversation that we plan to have in the future. So thank you, Trumpire. Thank you, the Donald. Thank you, all the listeners of MAGA Pod. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And like I always say, until next time, stay nimble, navigators.